Zone 6 is
Zone 6.
Zone 6.
as Zone 6.
Zone 6.
Zone
Twin hydro projects in Himalaya.
Why did this happen? The question is what happened? Okay, so welcome all the panelists. I welcome all the panelists today. Today we are going to discuss something titled an idea that has come out a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, with a new map of seismology. As suddenly we've seen that it has faced a kind of a turnaround. So the title of the discussion today is Beyond Zone 5, India's highest risk earthquake zone. And we want to focus a little bit at the end of the discussion on the Himalayan dilemma. There are these two maps that I showed you a little while ago. So there are these two maps, a before and an after. One which is the IS 1893-2002 and one which is the IS 1893-225. And this map shows us that from zone 5, which was the highest category, we now have a zone 6. And the zone 6 covers a sizable area, which was not there in zone 5. So zone 5 was small pockets, but zone 6 is a wider swath of Himalayan area, which is supposedly now in very highest risk category of earthquakes. Andaman also we see a similar kind of understanding where a large area of now Andaman has become zone 6. But why did this happen? The question is what happened? Because we know that there was the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs at Mahua flagged in February 2026 technical and financial concerns in the new code. Now, what the technical concerns are, that I would like our panelists to tell us, because as far as what the news reports are telling us, we understand that this India seismic zonation is something that keeps with contemporary global standards. Now, what these contemporary global standards are, again, I will pose a question to our eminent panelists. So why, like for example, C.P. Rajendran in his article has said that, this serves a critical purpose of determining how strong structures must withstand earthquakes. And if that is true, then we should be happy to have something like zone 6 and work according to that, because this would allow engineering practices to do safe buildings and to go with the scientific understanding of the new times. Also, I understand that zone 6 map integrates historical data, and that where I want Sachi sir to also tell us that how important historic data is for any understanding of any phenomena for that matter. So this, for the first time, I think has been integrated for zone 6, and that is how the scientists have come to this. But this rollback therefore sparks debates about institutional independence and need for safe construction and reconciling new costs. Say it is to be rolled out, then what is the way forward? How do we roll this out? Because states are on different page on this. Like Ahmedabad, for example, said that it has to be done immediately, while other states said that it could be staggered, you could take 6 months. So why isn't there a direction to stagger this or take this? What is the way that we could do something like this? Or is it okay to just roll this back and forget about it? So that's my opening remarks, and I would like to then take this forward with the questions. First, I would like to open our discussion with the Senior Vice President of Lights, Dr. Rasik Ravindra. He is a noted geologist who's been a DDG of GSI before he went on to become the director of NCPOR. He's, of course, India's polar man, but he's a great glaciologist, and he has a lot of work in the Himalayan region. So we are grateful. This was his idea. This panel discussion actually emanated from Dr. Rasik Ravindra's encouragement, and we thank you for your encouragement, sir. So if you could just open with a few words from you.
Thanks, Lugana. Actually, I should very categorically said that I am not a specialist or a seismologist. I have not worked in relation to the earthquake engineering. My idea about Himalaya is what I've gained from my work on the glaciers, and also compiling some information on the Himalayan because of my duties in Chandigarh, when I was the DTG in Chandigarh. So what generally is felt from the long range forecasting of the earthquakes, it has been felt that while the earthquakes have taken place in the Western Himalaya, in the Eastern Himalaya, the Central Himalaya possibly is one zone which has not experienced very serious or very major earthquake for the last 200 years. Kangra earthquake of 1905, Gorkha earthquake, Uttarkashi, and also some other earthquakes in Uttarakhand. But this particularly, the belt of the central Himalayas has not experienced, and people say, those who have worked in Himalayas, that a lot of strain is getting accumulated over the last 200 years in this area. And the entire Himalayan belt, there are successive thrusts are there, main central thrust, that Great Boundary Fault and all that. And all these faults, they run east-west. So there's high probability that a major earthquake might occur in this century. Because there is some statistical analysis, people have worked out that after every, say, within 500 years, you have some major earthquakes. The paleoseismicity work that has been done by NGRI and Dr. Arora and others, they have said that major earthquakes were recorded at 1500 and also during 1803 or so. So if you take the last earthquake was in 1803 and then Kangra earthquake, after that, we haven't experienced any major earthquake which is more than 8. And at that time, if you see the demographical setup, the density of population, and you compare where we are now, if any earthquake of that magnitude takes place, the damage that will be caused, is unparalleled. So in my opinion, if a scientific categorization of the seismic zoning has been done, taking all the probabilistic assessment of hazard, we should not have rolled back this, because after all, this exercise must have been done by taking into consideration all the factors, whether it is a strain accumulation, GPS studies and all that. So we would definitely like to hear from experts that what are the processes through which this strain has been measured, and what are the processes of measuring whether how much strain has been compensated. And also the ridges, two ridges, Sargodha Ridge and the Aravalli Ridge and the Mohan Ridge, do they have some sort of a softening effect on the earthquakes when you talk of Indo-Gangetic Plain like Delhi and others?
Okay, so thank you, sir, for your opening remarks. I will now move to Dr. Prabhas Pandey, and he's a senior geoscientist and former additional director general of GSI. And he, of course, has extensive experience on engineering and earthquake geological studies and geohazard assessment across India. And his expertise includes seismotectonic evaluation of Indian landmass and geoscience policy issues related to natural resources and hazards. We are delighted to have you with us, sir. You're very welcome. And I would like to take Dr. Rasik Ravinder's question to you. This technical concerns, how technically, like, for example, he said, how technically sound do you think these assessments are?
The Himalayas are part of a Cenozoic mobile belt, which runs all across the Himalaya, where the two plates are colliding with each other. So earthquakes are the inevitable part of this mountain building process. But I think I should give a little background of the evolution of seismic zone maps world over. It was in the early 20th century that number of destructive earthquakes happened, and then the need for this seismic zoning was felt to provide safety to the built environment. And the first zone map came up in Japan in 1924. In the Indian context, the major earthquake of 1934, Bihar, Nepal, which killed more than 10,000 people, prompted the then, you can say, the British government to have some sort of zoning map for India itself. So the Geological Survey of India was entrusted this responsibility. And in 1935, they came up with a zoning map, which had 3 basic zones. It was not based on any scientific calculation, but they demarcated the area, the Indian landmass, into 3 zones of low hazard, moderate hazard, and high hazard. And this is how the journey started. Then various scientists, they came up with their own maps. But this institutional effort by the then Indian Standard Organization, which is now referred to as BIS, started in 1962. So they came up with the first institutional seismic code of India, which was revised a number of times, mostly prompted by major seismic events like that of 1967, Koena, then and so on. And now we have come to the 7th revision of the seismic zoning map. The 5th revision and 6th revision have withstood the test of time. But this 7th code, as soon as it came, I think only after 3 months of its existence, it was, you can say, aborted, or it has been put on hold. So this is, you can say, a topic of debate. And I think in our, as we go ahead, we'll discuss more about it.
Right. Thank you so much. I would like to hear, so for example, I'd like to hear Dr. Sujit Dasgupta also. So basically trying to get the scientists, and then we'll go to the structural engineers after that. So then we can have Dr. K.N. Rai, Dr. Kaushik, and Dr. Deepak Bansal. So that's how I'm kind of doing it. So now moving to Dr. Sujit Dasgupta. So he's a senior geologist and a former DDG of GSI as well. And with decades of experience in geological mapping and earthquake engineering geological studies, he has contributed to India's understanding of tectonics and geological hazards. And he's worked in one of the famous publications, which is the Seismotectonic Atlas of India. He's been very much part of that. And we welcome you, sir, and we are very happy to have you amongst us. So if we may ask you, what is the PSHA? What is the assessment method of BIS map this time?
Now, when the proposal came that we'll be discussing on this issue, I just rapidly searched what are the other countries in the world doing. Have they switched over from a earlier DSHA to modern PSHA or something, or vice versa? So I was looking, maybe I am not 100% correct because I couldn't enter into the each countries, there's like our sites of that. But overall that it can, Japan, which is arguably, which is more seismogenic than India, nuclear power plant, major dams, urban seismic designs, integrates deterministic scenario for worst case earthquakes. So Japan, as far as the information is available with me, they are following deterministic approach. Another earthquake prone area is Italy. Lot of things happened. You know, a few years back, 2 scientists were put into jail for misleading the country that there would be no earthquake, something like that. It allows deterministic scenario for site-specific hazard studies, including high-risk zones like the Apennines. Follow deterministic approach also for heritage structures, dams, hospitals, etc. Number 3, Switzerland. Deterministic scenarios are applied to ensure resilience against maximum credible earthquake. USA. The first time I come across USA, where Nuclear Regulatory Commission requires, and it is within bracket, it is written there, it is mandated that you have to go by DSHA, not PSHA, for nuclear safety. While, yes, USA is following PSHA, which is dominates the building codes. So for building codes, USA is following PSHA, but for other utility services like hydel project or your nuclear power plant, they are following DSHA. China, our neighbor, so what they are doing? Deterministic approach for large dams and hydropower projects, while probabilistic ones only for critical lifeline structures. So I could gather this much. Well, if I try, I may gather more information. I may not be fully right. Okay? But while it gives an idea, while DSHA focuses on what is credible earthquakes, ensuring safety margins for critical structure, PSHA estimates the likelihood of ground motion over time. It doesn't tell anything about the magnitudes. what we are habituated in the general public to the scientists. In Nepal, oh, there was an earthquake of 7.8. Oh, in 2005, there was an earthquake of 7.5 or something like that. So we are accustomed, even the public, they know by in virtue of this our all propaganda, they know that well, we know that some idea 7.5 is definitely more than 6.5. This idea we have, but we don't have any idea, common people, we don't have any idea what this probability gives. It doesn't deal with magnitudes. It deals with a scenario where completely on the shaking response that will happen. Now, to this point, I'll go back to 2005. I think the panel has heard the names of Professor Max Weiss, who is a renowned professor in USA. He writes in 2005, and I quote, probabilistic seismic hazard analysis was originally developed from the analogous flood or wind problem and was used for risk analysis. In a similar way, PHHA was extended later to directly incorporate the uncertainty of ground motion. Such direct incorporation of uncertainty has no clear physical basis and makes it difficult to understand, explain, and use PHHA. He is writing in 2005, and then it is published in paper in EOS Transaction American, and it is in page 4556 in 2005, volume 86, number 5. Now, this comparison illustrates crucial differences between PHHA and flood frequency analysis. Although they have been used for risk analysis in the same way, PHHA and flood frequency analysis have got completely different meaning. So we are entering into field, with PHHA, what we are trying to do, we are trying to regulate or things the seismic response, not on the earthquake magnitude. With seismic response, how much it is generating. Now, most seismic designs, the comparison illustrate. I'll go back. I'll go to the comparison illustrate crucial differences and 2000. I read again in a paper, and it is published in a journal called Geoethics. The name of the journal is Geoethics, and the same author is same, Max Weiss, and he is writing. Estimating seismic hazard probability, PHHA, is a standard practice. Engineering handbook outline how this is to be done, and some countries require that the method be applied in estimating the peak ground acceleration, PGA, for which the built environment must be designated. The units in which the seismic hazard is presented on maps are meter per square second that is m stroke s square, or equivalent to a fraction of g in terms of g, gravity. Now what happens? The Earth's gravitational field exceeds the probability, and it gives in a both chosen by the author. It is not chosen by anyone else. It is chosen by the author who is generating this map. In this case, Bureau of Indian Standards or whatever it may be, they are in terms of, and for engineers who built a high dam or a reservoir, it is essential to be given a spectrum of acceleration and to design. However, with the same data, a governor of the province with seismic activity, a map with colors representative m per s square is incomprehensible and therefore useless. So the thing is that why today so much thing has come up in the newspaper. It is not, had the same thing had been done with our previous methods of DSHA, so much of this argument and so much of thing wouldn't have arisen. Even in spite of that, though I have got reservation of increasing one more unit as zone 6, because We didn't have any from zone 5 in 2016, making it to zone 6 and zone 5. There is no geological evidence, no seismological evidence during this period from 2016 to 2025. Other than the Nepal earthquake, which was 7.8, already we had that much of earthquake in the other part of the Himalayan, in Indian part. So the reason we could have done this, had it been in deterministic, so much of confusion, so much of thing, because we don't understand, common people don't understand what is going on. What we understand the magnitude. Common people also know the magnitudes. They have got an idea, but not on meter per second square. So I have got personally reservation on applying this PSHA for this type of work, where much of the common people are involved, much of the contractors are involved, because we don't have an setup where we can negotiate, where we can undertake, because contractor does it, because we don't have a system where everything is supervised. Unless it is supervised, how do I know that whether the contractor has done as per the author or not? Who is going to check? Unless there is supervision, we don't have that much of structure. I mean, we have plenty of structural engineers in India, but earthquake engineers are in a paucity. It is recorded that we have very little, very good amount of. So I think I have made it clear what is my thought process. And well, the next will we go on.
Yeah, we'll come back to you again. But I am very interested to get in Kamal Nayan Rai Saab now, because he made, Dr. Dasgupta made certain comments which I think you should throw a little light on. So just to introduce you, he's a structural engineer. Dr. K.N. Rai is a structural engineer from IIT Kharagpur, and he has headed the Works and Estates Department of DRDO for 7 years. He was also the advisor at the Ministry of Defense, DRDO, and he has been part of the Strategic Weapons Program, including the BrahMos missiles. He's in many panels across universities in the country. There is IITs and even MOEs he's part of. And I want to thank Sir on record for agreeing to be part of our discussion today. He is also associate member of LIGHTS. I want to know from you, PSHA and PSHA. What, in your view, is this seismic response in buildings? How do you have the PGA? What do you really do when you work with structures? So you tell me, is this zone 6 in the context of the zone 6?
Yeah. Thank you very much. As we are talking, the committee's already met twice to discuss this withdrawn code already. Yesterday also they were discussing, they said they've gone a bit too far and they're required to revise the whole code. And the time given to them is about 6 months. What's happening is the small differences that we've had now. We had 4 seismic zones earlier, now it's become 5. Then spectral analysis, what's happening was, it was only up to 6 seconds. Now they made it straight away 10 seconds. And the feeling is that instead of 10 seconds, should have been only 8. So increasing 6 to 8 wouldn't have made much of a difference in design. Now, what's happening in terms of gravitation, I don't think Japan has gone beyond more than 0.5 G or so. Here we have started going up to 1 G. Again, that is affecting the design factors. Then the sudden change in zones to zone 6, I feel it's too many. Why? Because even Chandigarh, I think, has come to zone 6 and they are really getting disturbed. Because all the buildings that are under construction, they're also checking. Now, what we have asked already sent a note saying, give a time period of 1 year for the code to become applicable, even after revision. That means a year and a half from now, the code will start getting effective. Now, really what's happening is, our technical institutions are very good. They really work very well, but they produce advanced safety standards. But our government system is not ready to absorb the whole thing. And that is why the problem starts. I'll give a simple example. Seat belt in a car on the rear seat is also absolutely mandatory. Otherwise, you're not supposed to get insurance cover. Now, in India, a few months back, the police started checking you if you were not wearing the rear seat belt. Suddenly, there was chaos, and the government said, "Mat check karo, please leave it." This is what is happening in a country. So, while I agree that Zone 6 is definitely required, but not to the extent it has been taken already. See, now what's happened? High-rise buildings, we had a code up to 150 meters for high-rise buildings is already there. We were able to adopt that even for lower heights. But now this has completely been removed. If it is removed, then the cost goes up from 10 to 12%. We were using it. Then the PSHA for analysis is very good, but they have to learn how to apply it, because the geologists who come this time have done a very good job. The only thing is we could not translate into design factors. That is what is important. Now I'll tell you drawbacks. Some areas I've already told you, which have changed from zone 4 to zone 6, must be reviewed again. They're required to check properly. Then peak ground acceleration again has to be relooked. Then design shear forces have increased tremendously. See, I was mentioning to someone that I have designed buildings for nuclear attacks. There I have adopted up to 30G, not 1G. And the only way we could get rid of the ground acceleration was by putting springs at the bottom on the sides. But that is a special requirement. We are also already having hospitals which are having base isolation. That's becoming very expensive, though it's not really required, but it's being done. So some of the factors, then if at all we want to use this earthquake code part 1, we should change the other 2 also and issue the 3 simultaneously. One more proposal of mine is that we have a design handbook. That design handbook also should come along with it. Otherwise, people are not really following it. So I'm in favor of revising the whole design. But first thing, the geologists must get together and help us to say to what extent we can take the ground motion, etc. That is what is most important. As far as design is concerned, I've seen that some of the factors adopted, the design cost has gone high as much as 50%. Only yesterday, someone gave me details of rise up to 50%. So the variation I found is from 15% to 50%. That is why the government has withdrawn this. And most affected are the dams in the mountains. Dams in the mountains that are there, their cost, yesterday someone was telling me, is 55% more. 3 dams. That is why the worry has started, and they've been asked to review the complete code. To start with, this is what I'll say.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So now I have a few, what should I say? I'm confused. The confusion is that if we have a probabilistic model, it is not accurate. And I mean, common knowledge says that, better be safe than sorry. So if there is a PSHA which says that a large extent of the Himalaya is under zone 6, and therefore the dams need to be done better, what is it overkill? Are you saying? So I'll go to Dr. Rajpal Kaushik now, and I'll ask him that if this is overkill, that we are doing too much and we don't need, it's not necessary.
I'd like to add just one more thing.
Yes.
If I can. When we are firing the missile and we sit together to analyze, when the chances of success is 45%, we fire it. So many probabilities are there. If they say chances of success 45%, fire. So that is the probability we work on.
So we have Mr. Rajpal Kaushik, a retired officer of the government of Uttar Pradesh. He served as a senior town planner for the Department of Town and Country Planning and chief town planner of Noida. And post-retirement, he has worked as advisor to the Yamuna Expressway Industrial Development Authority and the DDA. He's also associated with the BIS, and he has been part of the revision of the National Building Code. So he's the right man for us right now. Yeah. And he's also a faculty of the BIS Training Institute. Now, sir.
Recently, this has been withdrawn, and the process of withdrawal is not only with the seismic zone, it is with the NBC. We are revising the NBC for last 1.5 years. More than 2,200 experts from different streams, academy, then professionals, even the construction organizations, they have been involved in the process of revision. And now we are having a very detailed discussion regarding withdrawal of certain parts from NBC. And we are finding it very difficult. The government is insisting to have like some standard notes, some guidelines. They want to have different kind of structure of NBC. Now the NBC is not going to be the same as it was in 2016 or 2005. So far I am a town planner. For me, the challenge is very, of different nature. I am not concerned. This earthquake zoning is very important. This is one concern. But in Indian system, when we see two kind of things. One, the existing cities we have, and the new cities we are going to develop. Third part is the infrastructure which are beyond the city. So that infrastructure, whether it is dam or railway line or tunnels or roads, all these things are coming. Now the question is, we are facing different kind of problem. One is earthquake, another is subsidence. Lot of part in Himalayan region and lower Gangetic plain, we are having problem of liquefaction. The problem of subsidence, like in the Himalayan region, in coastal region. Most of our cities which are in coastal area, maybe Mumbai or Chennai or any other such city, they are facing this problem of subsidence. Now, this is very interesting thing. We have to expand the city and we have to create the new cities because the population is increasing. So our challenge is that integrating all these aspects, which are broadly geological or geomorphological aspects, we have to find out the areas where we can have new habitation and new projects. We have to identify clearly. Till now, what is happening? There are a lot of building construction activities going on the fault lines or along the fault. We have tectonic map, but we are not advising what should be done. We have tectonic map, but along with the tectonic map, we have to make things clear. If you want to have some kind of habitation, some kind of project there, what precaution you have to take? Whether we should have some buffer zones along the fault lines. Like I'll give one example. From Delhi to Dehradun, there is a very known fault line. But we find lot of building structures in Delhi on the fault line area and along the fault line area. Same thing is happening in Dehradun. So we have to see all these things, not only earthquake, but all other aspects which impact the decision of having any kind of habitation or infrastructure activity, infrastructure project. That is one aspect. Second aspect is like, after Bhuj earthquake, Ministry of Home Affairs constituted a committee under the chairmanship of Professor Arya, and that committee was actually to form building codes. And the committee suggested certain aspects. Now, the structural engineering or geotechnical engineer, they are very important player in designing the buildings. Our first aspect where we should not have any kind of habitation, human habitation or infrastructure project. Those areas we have not identified clearly till now. Second is where we can have and with what kind of provisions we can have. That is at the city level. Then come to the building level. Now, this geotechnical engineer and the structural engineer, they design the building in a way that it can resist the earthquake, it can resist the other movement. Most of the projects now, we have changed the building codes throughout country. Recent development from BIS, we have done an exercise in BIS and come with the document that is SDBR, Standard Development and Development Controls and Building Regulation 2023. This is the recent publication SP 73 from BIS, and this document clearly mandates to have buffer zones for different kind of buffer zones, whether it is coastal line or it is some water bodies or fault line, different kind of buffer zones which we have to maintain in any project. Another thing is the structural design has been made mandatory from the structural engineer, and peer reviews have been made mandatory. Then third party technical audit, that is basically for structural engineers, that is also being made mandatory for all kind of building. Then structural design based report as well as the structural design by the qualified and experienced engineer, structural engineer. All these things have been made mandatory in the building codes. Now the building codes is also under revision in different states. So there the important aspect is like Himalayan region. The building height is very important because what we see in towns in Himalayan region, that most of the towns have been created on the terminal moraines. Many Himalayan towns, they have been developed on the terminal moraines. Now they face a different kind of situation, and the building codes of these Himalayan states, they don't restrict the building height. After this Josimat issue, they have started imposing the restrictions on building heights in these towns. That is a very important aspect. So far, the building code is concerned, it is very important that it has two parts. Like I said, one part is where should we have building, that location, the geohydrological condition, geological condition of that space, of that place is very important. So the identification of appropriate land, that is one issue. But having building, what kind of building and how that building, the new buildings. Second aspect is retrofitting of the old buildings, because cities are very developed. If you have new code, then you may need the retrofitting in many buildings. So these are two important aspects. And from a planner point of view, with the help of structural engineer, the designing is another important aspect. It is not necessary to have high-rise building everywhere. We can achieve the same density with low-rise buildings, but high-rise buildings are coming for different regions, and this withdrawal of code, this zoning at 6 zone.
Zone 6.
The builders in Gujarat and few builders in some other states also, they have created this kind of scene that this new zoning will have financial impact on the ongoing projects as well as on the new projects, and which are generally, from builder point of view, these are residential projects, high-rise residential projects, high-rise commercial. From government point of view, infrastructure, metro lines, and some other railways. They have put up pressure, and that's why this is withdrawn. But our request will be that it should not be withdrawn. We should have more strict parameters to be followed for structural design, because ultimately structural design will impact future population as well as the working population. I think I will restrict myself.
We'll come back to you again. Now I'll just move to Dr. Deepak Bansal. Very relevant to what he said right now was that Himalaya, the building things, structures are now restricted, height is restricted. I think he'll be the right person to tell us how he's planning the new HUTCO office. I think he's in charge of that as well. Welcome, Dr. Deepak Bansal. He's the regional chief of HUTCO, HUDCO. for Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. And he has 3 decades of civil engineering experience in built environment. He holds a PhD and he has a strong structural engineering background. And he has worked with various, like he has worked with UN Habitat. So he's worked with UN Habitat. He has worked with International Red Cross, JICA, ADB, and UNESCO, among other many other organizations. He works on resilient housing, alternative construction material, vernacular building practices, and I think that is where Kaushik Saab, aapka, the understanding of how people build organic structures. So, Dr. Bansal, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am, and good afternoon to all. As far as a structural engineer, what I understand IS 1893 2025 Part 1 is that it has two parts. One is the hazard assessment, and second is structural design. As far as hazard assessment is concerned, being a structural engineer, I have very limited information about the geotechnical information. But what I believe that the mapping has been done as per the world standard, because as per the Italy seismological mapping of the world, Himalayan region has been put under the ground acceleration, which is being depicted in IS 1893 Part 1 2025. So that is, according to me, that is a similar to that. So hazard is similar. That was different that according to previous standard, we have underestimated it and we were designed with the lower values. Second part is the designing of these structures in this region. So most part of Jammu and Kashmir has been put in zone 6. We can design for that. And the important part is that now in place of importance factor, this has given the probability of occurrence of earthquake in different type of buildings. For example, when we were designing residential building of population less than 100, so our importance factor was 1. But now it says no. You have to take the probability as per the importance of the building in terms of years. So like 250 years, 500 years, 700 years. So if you see Z factor, which is acceleration, ground acceleration in 250 years, which is roughly same as given in 2016 code. So codal values has not changed if we take the probability of 250 to 59 years, whatever has been given in the code. But if we go for the higher category of the buildings, the probability is more, so Z factor is much more. So that can be done. That is the ultimately as a structural engineer, we have to rely the wisdom of the geotechnical engineers that they have mapped the hazard and given the value. But my point is slightly different, because what is happening, as Professor Kaushik has said, that beside the earthquake, land zoning, land use, subsidence, slope stabilities is much more important. We have not seen a bigger earthquake in Himalayan region since last 20 years. In spite of that, lot of landslides, lot of subsidence have played havoc. Recently, this year only, 2024-25, heavy floods in Jammu and Kashmir have devastated whole the regions. So these are also important. Earthquake is also important, but earthquake can be tackled. But the land use, land planning, subsidence, slope stabilities are much more important. While dealing with different sort of disasters in the country, from 1993 Latur to recently 2015 in Nepal, what we have seen that major destruction takes place in the non-engineered building. Because in India, even in Delhi, we see how many buildings are engineered, how many buildings are according to IS 1893, 2016, or even 2002. Hardly 5%. DDA, CPWD, NDMC, probably cantonment. Even in those buildings, lot of illegal modifications, extension has happened. So these buildings are non-engineered. So if we make our code very stiff, very tough, then definitely people will not follow it. What is the example in Delhi? What example has been given about the seat belt, rear seat belt in the car? That you make code very stringent, then the government itself will come into rescue of violators. So that is happening. You see in Delhi, buildings are being planned in unauthorized zones, slums, that is being legalized. Why? Because the sustainability, the cost effectiveness is much more important than the long term. Of course, we have to keep our lifeline building safe so that they can serve during the disasters. We can put springs, we can put base isolators, we can make the paramedic facilities also equalate good so that they can work and uh, tackle the patients in case of emergencies. So that is much more important. But as far as IS 1893 Part 1 2025, I think that this is okay. As far as 250, 259 year return period is concerned, this is more or less similar to IS 2016 Part 1. But as far as the other probability has been given, this is requiring much more seismic acceleration on the building. So forces are much more. Somewhere it is happening that even the residential buildings are requiring cost to the tune of 50%, 60% more than that. So people cannot justify if something is beyond your reach, but that is the law of the land. What you can do, you will definitely going to violate it. Similarly, things is happening. If you read NBC, it clearly says that every public building has to be evaluated for safety after every 5-10 years. But are we doing that? No. The building has been designed as per the IS 1993 code, 2002 codes. Are they in conformity with 2016 code? No, they are not. But still, a lot of housing stock is there, which require retrofitting. In spite of doing retrofitting, we are going for, sorry, there's some interruption. We are going for very high requirement, which is ethical, which is legal, which is scientific, which is okay, but which may not be sustainable. That is my intake. We have to put more efforts on land use planning, the slope stability, Hmm, density. And I fully agree with Professor Kaushik that we can do low rise, high density in same FAR, which will have more sustainability in terms of less requirement of cement, steel, and expensive materials, and can give the same density. I stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. That so now we have a quite a divided, house here. So we have some people who have said that it's okay, but we need to think about compliance. We need to think about how much we can get people to do despite the codes. And some people have actually challenged it. We have Sujit Dasgupta Sahab who have said that no, we don't need to follow the PSHA. We need to go with DSHA. So we have quite a bit here, and even Ken Rai Saab has said that we need to revise this doesn't work. Okay, now I will come to Pant Saab. Most of you already know Professor Pant is a professor of geology from the University of Delhi, and he has worked on high pressure metamorphism, and he has worked also on a lot of process of glaciation. He is also the glacier, another polar man, a little less than Dr. Ravindra, because Dr. Ravindra is Antarctic and polar and a lot of other things. He's a stalwart. He's our polar man. But here is another gentleman who works on glaciers as well. And he is the INSA chair for SCAR, and he's a prolific writer. He has very well cited research publications in a lot of international journals, and he's also the vice president of LIGHTS. Professor Pant, over to you.
Thank you, Suleknaji. Interesting listening to really a very wide range of views. I actually thank Sujita for providing the fundamental of science in this context. As we understand, the withdrawn code is already, or withdrawn classification zonation is already in a sort of revision. There are many ways to look at it. I will not repeat the discussion which has already taken place. There are many ways to look at science or the basis of this code, and whether we needed the change in the way it came about. So, despite not being the devil's advocate, the route I'm taking is an empirical route. So what I did was that I looked at, and there are two different contexts we are talking about. One is kind of town urban planning, and the other is major engineering. Why these distinctions are important, as has been pointed out by many of the esteemed speakers, that the town planning context, urban housing, etc., there the implementation of existing guidelines is not very good. So there are problems in that. But when we look at the major infrastructure projects, especially something like hydro projects in Himalaya, because there is a lot of focus on Himalaya, there the designs follow most of the things. So one of the empirical way to look at this data could be that we look at through the prism of earthquakes in last 6, 70, 80 years and examine whether the existing guidelines failed or withheld. So what I did, I made a list of earthquakes from 1950 to 2005, excluding the Nepal one last. 11 earthquakes, most of which were above 6 magnitude, other than the Jabalpur one, which was 5.8. So these are the earthquakes starting from the Assam earthquake. I'm not listing all of these. Then I compared that with the damages or disasters which were there, a list of disasters separate, independent of these, and whether they were relatable to earthquakes or not. Why? Because these and then concentrating on Himalaya. So there were about 8 major, especially dominantly tidal one. The one which is outside Himalaya is Koyna, and the others include Tapovan, Vishnugad, Rishiganga, then Sikkim one, Tista 5, then Chungtham, Tista 3, Asiganga 1 and 2, then Karcham 1, 2, and Koyna. These are the 8 which were the major disasters. And will you believe that not even a single one is ascribable to the list of the earthquakes which I had compiled. Other than the Koyna in the shield area is ascribed to the induced seismicity, RIS, and which led to change of the zonation at that point of time. So my point is this, that when we look at the empirical data of earthquakes and whether they have impacted the problems in the structures in which the existing structural code, existing zonation was followed, and whether it led to any issue, there is not even a single example which can be directly related. So therefore, when you invoke a new code, new zonation, which leads to significant price escalation, then I'm not sure that empirical data suggests that. As I'm not repeating Sujit Das' discussion and contention very nicely brought out, that the deterministic model has withstood the test of time and has led to the right kind of structures. It is the issues where we have had major disasters are either related to BLOFs, the landslides, not related, seismic landslides, and flooding and others. So therefore, I think we need not be, very negative about the withdrawal. There may be aspects of this which are, which are actually relevant, and we should look at dispassionate, look at in context of. So that is the short summary, which fortunately, because there was a lot of discussion earlier, I can see in that sort of light. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the fact that we have Dr. Kaushik and Dr. Bansal is because of Professor Pant, because he said that we must have structural engineers, and which is why thank you so much, both of you once again. At short notice, both Dr. Kaushik and Dr. Bansal agreed to be with us. So now I need to come to a critical question. I will again go to Prabhas Pandey sir, and I will ask you, if Himalayas is something that we are concerned about, and dams are there, and lives and livelihoods both are very much dependent on the Himalayas, and the fact that now this panel says that Zone 6 under the PSHA is not really a very relevant, kind of the relevance of it is under, and Dr. Pant also says that maybe it can be relooked. So what in your view, do you think that we need to relook, or do you think that we need to, the Himalayan conundrum is something that we have made for over scientific estimation? What is your view now?
I would again start with how this 7th revision came into being. This took almost more than 2 years, and some 37 institutions and 5 individual members, which are of top expert of this country, were involved in framing this code. So as far as the scientific pooling of scientific knowledge is concerned, there shouldn't be any doubt, because all the major departments were involved, including the Geological Survey of India, most of the IITs, and so on. And after preparing this base document, this was put in public domain for comments. to various stakeholders. And as far as I know, only some fringe comments came, and most of them were implemented. Only one serious concern was raised by Central Water Commission. They indicated that with this code, the construction of dams would be impractical. It would be very difficult to design the dams. So for the timing, what they have done, they are preparing another code for dams, hydroelectric projects.
Yeah.
The atomic facilities have been kept out of the domain of this 7th code. So this is how the present status is. Now I will come to PSHA and DSHA. Now what we do in DSHA, that is the deterministic analysis, and most of our previous codes are based on DSHA, is that they are taking a fixed value of earthquake or ground acceleration, which is the maximum. Say they are taking a maximum PGA, and that is not changed for different type of structures. What they are doing in PSHA is the likelihood of occurrence of a certain magnitude of earthquake, and it is up to the user which return period they choose. So I was going through this code, and I was really amazed to see that if you say they've categorized the structures into 4 classes, that is special, critical, important, and normal structures. So most of the buildings are normal structures, that is the masonry structures. And if I take the example and they have suggested to take for normal structures a return period of 175 years.
Yeah.
So if we take this 175 year of return period in seismic zone 2 of this 2025 code, the effective peak ground acceleration would be 0.05 G. And if we compare it with the previous code, it is 0.1 G, means there's a reduction in the PGA value. If we take for zone 3, it comes to 0.08 G, and in the previous code it was 0.1 G. So still lower. If we go to zone 4, it is 0.175 G, and for this previous code, it was 0.24 G. And similarly for zone 5, it comes to 0.25 G, and in the previous code it was 0.36 G. So if we take it in this scientific way, we'll come to understand that the PGA values are in fact reducing for different type of structures. We are not going for special structures, but for normal structures, and I think which constitute about 80% of our built environment, there is some sort of reduction in the PGA values for which the designs have to be taken. So this is my only thing, is that it is rather difficult to understand by everybody. Means you require some special eye to understand the whole gamut. Whereas the users are generally, particularly in the rural areas, they are not very competent people. They are not very educated. So it will be difficult for them to comprehend this entire code. One example I will give you here. It is regarding the liquefaction susceptibility. In the previous code, it was some sort of thumb rule was given that in seismic zone 3 and 4 and 5, if the SPT value comes down below 15, then that area is susceptible to liquefaction. Whereas in this code, you have to do a very rigorous exercise to come at this, to brand this area whether it is liquefiable or not. It's a zone factor, and it requires various geotechnical expertise. So these are some of the things which make this code. But one thing which I have found very glaring, as has been pointed out earlier by other speakers, that certain areas have risen by 2 notches. Take the example of Jaipur city. It was previously in zone 2. Now it has gone into zone 4. That means a lot in the design of various structures. Take the case of Chandigarh, it has already been stated. From zone 4, it has gone to zone 6. Maximum part of northern UP belt, which is adjoining Nepal border, has gone from zone 4 to zone 6. means its status has become almost equal to that of the Himalaya. So these are certain aberrations which can be eased out or which can be removed. So some sort of revision would be essential. But saying that the entire code is useless or it has to be aborted, a new code should be developed, I think that will be too far-fetched. Some sort of mid-course corrections can be made in this rigorous exercise that has been carried out by various institutions, by various experts, so that we shouldn't have any doubt about the competency of this of the committee which formulated this. Thank you.
I will come for a few quick comments, and I'll also call in my colleague Saloni to ask a question. But before I give her the stage, I want to go to Ken Rai Saab. So from the civil engineering perspective, like for example, Pravas Pandey says that you shouldn't throw the baby and the bathwater both out. So there are certain goods that can be retained and maybe some modifications that can be made. But in the philosophy of this, like we are focusing on the Himalayan region, and you have been part of critical infrastructure. So if we are considering dams also part of critical infrastructure, is it not, is it not to be safe then sorry? I mean, why are we saying that if there is something that's being built today, why can't we build it better? That's my point. Why is a dam a question of zone 6? That they don't want to listen to zone 6. I mean, it's okay to go with zone 5.
Yeah.
You can just tell us.
See, I agree with Dr. Pandey that I never said that the whole code is to be thrown away. I said it's under revision. Only a few parts have to be revised. Wherever the cost is going high, or the zone from zone 4, it has become zone 6. Only those things have to be done. Now, what's happening? We all know that 80% of the buildings are non-engineered totally. And I do travel to J&K every month for about a week or 10 days, looking at the slopes also. You look at you heard of the landslide a few months back in Vaishno Devi. Now we got worried, and we put GSI to study the slopes all along to make them safer. And we are trying to cut down the population on the hill, bring them down to Katra. This is going on. This is becoming second thing we're trying to do, because you can't help it. Population going up. Population pressure is so much that we are building houses along the riverbed also, all over, along the slopes. If you go into the hills, valley side is after the road, and valley side after the road is supposed to be either the revenue land or part of the river. But you find houses being built there also. They pulled stilts 3-story high and make a single-story building, and they're all dangerously placed. So study carried out by, that's why I said geotechnical investigation done for this code has been very, very good. The only thing is we should not go totally overboard. That's all. Some modification are required because cost of the structure is going up. Now, in J&K, I was asked to make a lot of buildings. I'm reviewing buildings costing about 1,000 crores, mostly prefabricated structures. The other areas that we've started working on is extensive ropeway. Otherwise, hills are getting damaged, buildings are being constructed, you just can't stop it. So we've said, instead of widening the roads, might as well provide a ropeway and continue with it. So this exercise is also going on to make ropeways. I think about 6 ropeway projects are under planning and execution in the whole of J&K. So I never said that the whole code is thrown out. I'm saying that yes, certain aspects do require revision because it's becoming very, very expensive. That's all my point.
Right, sir. I want to come to first Dr. Dasgupta. Let me quickly summarize and ask you. So the new methodology in question, the understanding is that there are sections that need revision, and separate structures may need separate methods. Compliances need to be worked on, and FAR can be increased without having to build high rises. Now, this is the kind of summary we get from this, but I want your views about how do you feel that new methods, this new way of, calculating in the PSHA is not all bad. Certain sections can be accepted while certain can be modified. Do you agree?
The thing is that now the entire modus operandi way of approach, including from the very starting point, that we go by the basic geology of the Himalayas, because we are primarily concerned on the Himalayas, not for the other parts other than Kutch. So what as a geologist, even not as an engineer or something else, geology and structure of Himalaya hasn't changed anything. Nothing has come up. Well, certain, like a landslide, a big landslide has come in Jammu and Kashmir, so we must take protection of it. Earthquake is not like that. No bigger event or very tremendous event has come up so that we have to knee-jerk reaction, we have to change everything or introduce one extra zone, making Chandigarh, and as Dr. Pandey telling, making Chandigarh to jump 2 to 3 zones. So that is a knee-jerk reaction. In fact, I don't remember my comments itself in LinkedIn the very first day when this code was announced. I gave a comment in LinkedIn. It might be there even today, but I don't remember. But the theme I remember is that probably this has come because at that time I didn't go through the A. Probably this has come to cut the total aspect that was going in Uttarakhand and in Jammu and Kashmir during the last 2-3 monsoon, including that havoc with that hydro project that gone down. So one thing, as such, I don't have any objection that you change from a deterministic approach to probabilistic approach. Both are scientific. But thing is that probabilistic, as it has been said in everywhere, it is said by only Max, many scientists in all over, including structural engineers, they come up with the opinion that this is not a cup of tea for everyone. Everyone doesn't understand what you are thinking, what is behind it. You can't see a G value in front of you. You can't see a G value. It's a notional. It's put. Maybe a lot of science is beyond that. So I don't know whether it is you go by this way or the deterministic but the only point is that what is the logic of increasing one additional zone 6? What has been? I have not gone, to be honest, I have not gone through the entire code which has come up. But I doubt what has there any geological explanation for going for a code, because all these zones are developed based on the basic geology, not on the geology and geological structure, not on other things. So has anything come changed during the last 10-15 years or during from 2016 to 2025 that we have to add another zone, or it is an artifact or something else, which I doubt.
Okay, so I will come back on that, yes. So I have Dr. Ravindra. Yes, Dr. Ravindra, please tell us, is there any rationale for a zone 6?
I partly agree and partly disagree with what Dr. Sujit Dasgupta says. And also what Dr. Pant had brought in the empirical sort of the analysis. See, in the last 200 years, we have no earthquake. So we have no empirical data. What Dr. Pant has said is floods and landslides and other things, right? So there is no data with us about the earthquakes to say that what has happened and what can be the disaster, what can be the damage. Now, tsunami is the example. Tsunami, we were not knowing the spelling of tsunami before 2004. And one tsunami came and our entire knowledge about the deep sea earthquakes had changed. What probably is the justification for zone 6 is that if you go back 50 years, the density of the population or the demography or the pressure of the population in all these border areas like Chandigarh, Dehradun, it was perhaps not that acute because there was hardly any great density of population. But afterwards, when the Dehradun became a state capital and Chandigarh became a union territory and all that, there was an enormous increase in the structures, civil structures. So the damage or the perception of the damage, it increased hundredfold. I think possibly that might be one reason why these areas must have been upgraded to a more serious perception of the damage. That is only one thing that I can understand. The second question that was in my mind was, in the last couple of years, a lot of exercise has been done about micro-zonation of the cities. Delhi has been mapped as per micro-zonation. Dehradun has been covered. And some other cities, I think Chandigarh and Jabalpur also have been covered. And I think GSI was involved. So I would like to hear from both Dr. Sujit and Dr. Prabhas Pandey. Are the findings of this micro-zonation in line with this upgradation of standard or no? Or there is no relation between micro-zonation and the upgraded zonation?
So we would like Prabhas Pandey Saab to answer Dr. Ravindra first, and then we'll go to Pansab. And Dasgupta Saab also. I mean, Dasgupta Saab also some...
Micro-zonation world over has started only very recently. In 1980s, US and Japan, they took up this exercise. And India, it came into operation, say, in late 90s. And at that time, I was the director. I can say in GSI, the studies were initiated by myself and Sujit Dasgupta Saab, this micro-zonation studies. So micro-zonation means we are doing the hazard mapping on a much larger scale. In case of this seismic zoning of the country, this is done on a very broad scale. But in micro-zonation, we are doing the study on, say, 1:25,000 scale. So if we take the example of, say, Delhi, which is in seismic zone 4, there can be several smaller zones where we can expect much higher level of ground motions. So those areas have to be demarcated, and that comes in the domain of micro-zonation. And for that, we do some special investigations, including the geological mapping, the subsurface exploration, the characteristics of the soil mass, and so on. And after that, we compile, and liquefaction susceptibility is also included in micro-zonation exercise. But if we compare it with the broad or very broad scale seismic micro-zonation of country, this is in, you can say, total variance. In Delhi itself, you can have zones equivalent to, you can say, zone 3, zone 5, zone 6, and so on, depending upon the site characteristics. But if you take on a broad sense, Delhi falls in seismic zone 4. So this is the difference between the two exercises. Both are assessment of the seismic hazard, but on much different scale.
Right. That was very helpful. Dr. Dasgupta, quick comments.
Yeah, microzonation, as Dr. Pandey told that we started with microzonation, but the concept of microzonation, it cannot be mixed up with the national code that is there. But microzonation, you see, there is, I just give you one example. To me, that appears. You see, the earthquake of Bhuj, you take, it was a very big 7-point-something, very big earthquake, and lot of damage was done in the Bhuj and other areas. But Ahmedabad, which was far away from that place where the earthquake took place, tremendous amount of 4 to 5 stories jo building tha, that got collapsed. Simple collapsed, other than the soft stories. I am not going for the soft stories problem. Other than those, in Ahmedabad, all the 4-story and 5-story building, and they were totally. So at that point of time, because I didn't went on researching on this aspect, the thing that I discussed with at that time with others also, that it was there is a concept in microzonation, in seismic microzonation of what is called the resonance frequency. Every structure as the structural engineers are there in this forum, every structure, it has got a natural, depending on this height, it has got a natural frequency. So it will sway as per that one, it will sway. So now, once it happens that the ground frequency and the building frequency, they match together, then and even that the wave that are coming from Bhuj to say Ahmedabad, what frequency has come. So so much of damage in Ahmedabad was due to resonant frequency, not due to that Bhuj earthquake was a 7 point something earthquake. It was a huge earthquake, but at the same time it was far. In between Bhuj and Ahmedabad, there were not such large buildings, such 4 stories, 5 stories buildings. So that didn't get damaged. As for my visit, a very short visit, unlike Dr. Pandey who stayed there for several months. So that is seismic micronization concept, it is being adopted much in European countries. You see what happens? They will not allow a 4-storied building to come along with a 2-storied building in the same complex, because each has got its own natural frequency of vibration in the case when it is vibrate. So in that case, if there is not sufficient gap, what will happen? One will come and hit the other. The higher building, which have got a high frequency, it will come and hit the other one. So to avoid that, they have clustered 10-storied building in a different area, 5-story or 4-storied building in a different cluster. So this concept is going on. This is there in seismic microzonation.
Right. Now quickly, Dr. Pant, Professor Pant.
I just wanted to point out that Rasik Sab said that there have been no earthquakes in last 200 years. No, I mean, I pointed out that there have been many earthquakes, many major earthquakes actually. 11 I counted from 1950 till now, or till 2005. So there were earthquakes and they did not damage any of the design major structures, especially idle structures. They could not be correlated. That's all.
Yeah, I was just referring to the major earthquake, more than 8 in last in Central Himalayas.
More than 8.
Yeah, more than 8.
All right. So now I will ask Saloni for her question and then go to Dr. Kaushik and Dr. Bansal for some questions on microzonation, but I'll come after that.
Good afternoon, everyone. And my question is very basic question. And I also recall that Dr. Rasik Ravindra sir did mention also that during research, the technical reports and the seismic maps, there is zone 2, but there is no zone 1 to zone 6. So why is there classification of zonation from 2 to 6 and not 1 to 6? Is there any scientific background for this classification or not?
If you see the chronology or history of seismic zoning maps, if you start with the first zoning map which came up under BIS code, that is in 1962, it had 7 zones, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there were 7 zones. In its first revision in 1970, the code had 7 zones, 0, 2. Then in subsequent codes, it was made 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In 2002, the zone 1 and 2 were merged together. Why it was done so? Because what is meant by zone 1 means here you can expect seismic intensity of 5 or less. So what does intensity 5 means? Means there will be no structural damage to the buildings. That's why they merged zone 1 and 2. Means they are interested in those intensities or those values which can damage a structure. So zone 1 and 2 were merged, and not saying 1 and 2, they've started saying it zone 2. That's why this zone 2 came into being. It includes zone 1. Means there can't be any area which is totally free from earthquake hazard. So that's why they made it as 1 and designated as zone 2. That's why this zone 2 has come. Similarly, this zone 6 which has come and covering the entire Himalaya is, you can say, it's a corollary of that. When they are doing this PSHA analysis, they have found, say for a return period of 2,475 years, that is the MC condition, they were getting much higher values, means of the order of say 0.75 in certain areas, or you can say the entire Himalayan belt. So that's why they have made one additional zone, which is zone 6, encompassing the entire Himalaya, or you can say the whole Cenozoic mobile belt, including the Andaman region, as well as the Kutch region.
Thank you so much, sir, for clarifying this query.
Thank you, Saloni. Now to Dr. Kaushik and Dr. Bansal. So do you think then the microzonations, basically we have all these urban centers, and dam spaces in the Himalayas. So if in a microzonation we are moving from 2 to 6 within the microzonation map itself, so there is an area which is really, really susceptible and there is less. Would that be more helpful rather than a kind of a broad zonation of 1 to 6, and that we should work with building codes for only related to microzonation? What, in your view, is the way out or the solution to this?
I think it is always better to have a review kind of thing. Suppose this zoning, zone 6, is now introduced, and now the decision is for review of that. That is okay. But I think from planning point of view, from urbanization point of view, and even for large size infrastructure projects, if we have micro zoning in the Himalayan region as well as in other areas. Let us take an example of Kerala. Kerala is facing problem of landslides. These are very different kind of problem. But if we do this kind of micro zoning for different parts of country, and identify the hazardous areas, whether it is earthquake, subsidence, or liquefaction, or any other, even what we are observing now, lot of flooding. Every year, abrupt flooding, especially in urban areas, we are facing this problem. So we have to identify those areas which are potentially hazardous, and that can be done through microzoning. So that is one part. So it will help us to take a appropriate decision for different kind of projects, and accordingly the technology, the construction methodology, the material, that can be decided. The same way for urbanization, whether we should have an expansion of existing city, or we should go for new cities, or whether we can have a new township in a particular area. So all those decisions we can take those decisions easily. If we have micro zoning properly done, taking all these aspects into consideration, all geological, geohydrological conditions, then the decision making will be better.
Right. Do you think Himalaya should be treated separately?
I think Himalayan region, because it impacts not only the Himalayan region, it impacts the Gangetic Plain also. Any activity, any geological activity within Himalayan region will impact the Gangetic Plain also. So Himalayan region needs special consideration for microzoning, but all other areas like coastal regions, plain, especially in lower Gangetic Plain, which is experiencing lot of liquefaction in urban areas. So liquefaction impact the building stability. And we are facing these kind of problems in all these areas. So detailed microzoning is very important.
Right. And Dr. Bansal, what is your view on this?
I think that microzonation is definitely required. Without microzonation, it is very difficult to plan the built environment. And we are thankful to BMTPC, Building Material Technology Promotion Council. They did lot of vulnerability study of India in terms of earthquakes, cyclones, floods, and landslides. And they have given us vulnerability atlas, which is district wise.
Yeah.
Because the current IS 1893 says that this part is whole in zone 6. But within zone 6, there might be some part which can be defined as zone 5, zone 6, zone 4 also. And beside that, there are different vulnerabilities in terms of landslides, in terms of flood, in terms of cyclone, in terms of soil subsidence, may be different. So this is definitely in need of the time to have micro zonation of whole of India and particularly Himalayan region, because this is in seismic zone 6.
Right. So now we are come to the close of our discussion today. We didn't even realize that time has flown. I'll take 30 seconds, final words from everyone. And we will start with K.N. Rai sir. 30 seconds from you, sir.
I'll
Closing.
only talk two places only. Delhi requires microzoning definitely because we got the ridge area and we got this riverbed also. Second, we were talking FAR. You look at Bombay, Dharavi. Now we are going to make multi-story buildings just to remove the juggies. The population pressure is so much that we can't go in for 3 and 4-story building unless we go out horizontally beyond the cities. As far as this code is concerned, I've already said that some parts require revision and the revision is going on. It will help us a lot. My only request to them, I've already sent it saying, make it applicable within a year, 1 year. Don't abruptly change it. Because now, for example, buildings in, say, Chennai and Bangalore, fellow says, my building is going to be very cheap. Chennai fellow says, my building is going to be very expensive. So these things slowly it will be covered up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Moving on to Dr. Dasgupta. Closing comments, 30 seconds.
No, we have excellent discussion on this seismic microzonation, because we started with seismic microzonation. Then I think we will slightly other type of microzonation also included. For Delhi, GSI has done an extensive work, but I think no one is following it. Those maps are there. It is available to anyone, and only it is being used for writing another paper on seismic microzonation of Delhi urban complex. No construction worker, no civil body, no one is using, as far as my understanding goes. So creating a map and creating something giving to, because it took so many years for Delhi and other people in Faridabad, they did it. So I think that as it exists, particularly for Delhi, it should be used for seismic microzonation.
Right. We will come to Bansal sir. Please tell us closing comments, 30 seconds.
Yeah, ma'am, I think that IS 1893,
Yes.
Part 1, 2025 is all right in terms of normal building, because these seismic values are almost same. But we have to see the sustainability of other buildings also. Because if something is not sustainable, somebody cannot afford it, then it cannot be designed. Secondly, earthquake is not only the factor. The landslides, subsidence, cyclones, these are also important factors. So land use planning has to be done in terms of local bylaws, in terms of environmental norms. As far as FAR is concerned, FAR cannot be abruptly increased or decreased. It depends upon the availability of services, availability of spaces, availability of land use, all these things. So FAR is a very complicated term. It is not engineering. It is something related to environment. It is something related to behavior. It is something related to economy also. So this has to be looked into. But as far as HUDCO is concerned, we have seen that low-rise, high-density development is the most suitable in FAR 2.5, which is very sustainable and which is very practical also, because steel and cement requirement is much less in that. Besides that, I just wanted to tell one more thing, that it's been said that earthquake engineers are not there. I would like to tell that in that case, even the cyclone engineers are not there. So structural engineering is a more comprehensive generalized branch which deals with the earthquake and which deals with the cyclone and wind also. So because we had been taught that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bansal. Pandey Saab.
I will briefly touch upon two aspects. One is microzonation, of which I have already spoken. One is that this is still an academic exercise. We are not using for construction of buildings. And the major constraint is that it is not a legal document. Means supposing in case of Delhi, on the Yamuna banks, if you say that here the accelerate this ground motions would be enhanced because of the soil cover, so you have to go for higher values. It cannot be implemented because this is not in the bylaws. They will do it as per this seismic code, means zone 4. So this is still an academic exercise. Secondly, microzonation can be done in those cases, in those cities where you have got some soft sediments overlying the hard strata. You can't do it in places like where the rock is exposed, because here we have to determine how much there will be a change in the amplitude of vibrations. So these things should be kept in mind. And lastly, regarding this seismic code, whatever is done to this 7th revision, means whether they revise it, whether they do it. But what I feel is that there should be a simpler version also, which can be directly applied by those who are doing the groundwork, means who are on the ground, who are less educated people, who are not very skilled. It should be understandable by them. Means say for zone 3, what should be the quantity of steel in the foundation, what should be the foundation condition to be improved upon, what should be the concrete mixture strength, and so on. So this sort of guidelines should be provided to the persons, particularly in the rural areas, who are not very literate, who can't go to structural engineers or earthquake engineers for help. So bulk of the constructions are being done by such community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But there were some more follow-ups I had, but maybe in later discussion. Kaushik Saab, closing comments, 30 seconds.
Yes, I have two comments. One, like or going through the micro zoning atlas, or MOEF also has created for districts zoning atlas. That is mainly concerned with the underground water condition, soil condition, and other environmental factors. So whenever we prepare a master plan for any town or any city, we try to refer all these atlases available in country. That is one part, and it depends on the person to person. But now we are trying to encourage all town planners, especially who are working in the field of planning of city, preparation of master plans. We try to encourage them by saying or even making it mandatory in building codes that please refer whenever you prepare a plan, master plan, you refer all these atlases, all these zoning atlases available in country. So as you can have a better decision whenever you decide the land use plan. So that is one aspect. Another aspect is what we are experiencing now actually. I am agree with Dr. Bansal. With regards to FAR, at present we are facing this issue that there is a lot of pressure to increase the FAR. And we have some states who are going for unrestricted FAR. Unrestricted FAR or unlimited FAR is anti-planning concept.
Yeah.
And we are introducing these concepts in many states. Like take an example of Telangana. They have introduced this concept. Now UP has introduced unrestricted FAR without any ground coverage. So these kind of pressures, how will you plan that? And higher FAR is not the solution. You can achieve the same density with lower FAR. So throughout world, all high, skyscrapers or all high-rise buildings, they are not with higher FARs. They are with 4 to 5 FARs. And now where we are talking about 8, 9, 10, 12 FARs or even the unrestricted FAR, I think this is going to be a very big challenge that building masses within the city are going to have unrestricted FAR without any ground coverage control, and that is going to create a very different kind of nature of buildings and problems. I think we as a professional body, whether we are engineers or architects or we should also think of that ultimately all these exercises are for buildings.
True. True.
Buildings.
Correct.
And we have to create sustainable building. So higher FAR is not the solution. You can achieve that with the lower FAR.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaushik. It is actually quite eye-opening because, like you said, all this exercise is actually for the buildings. So if that is not being done and the end result is not there, then this entire academic exercise is of no use, really. Professor Pant, final closing comments, 30 seconds.
So the one great utility of us coming together in discussion has been, I believe, that it is not, there is no, the whole, this removal of this is not a black and white exercise, but there are gray areas. And I think the one success which we all could see is that there are possibilities of improvement from all sides. And those improvements are beneficial in a commercial sense, also in the sense of lowering of cost, as well as in context of science also. So I think that is the best part of us spending a couple of hours together and you taking that trouble of making it happen. And I take that as a very, very positive point. And ultimately, I believe the result will also come out like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. And we close our discussion with Dr. Rasik Ravindra's final comments and giving us a way forward of what you think has happened over here and what you think the forward-looking ideas are.
Well, I'll use only 5 seconds of mine from 30 seconds, and I'll give 25 seconds to my two experts, seismologists. My question is, what is the probability of a major earthquake in the next 10 years? What is the probability of a major earthquake in Himalayas in the next 10 years? To both of you, please.
Sir, I think you are referring to another aspect, that is the prediction of earthquakes.
Yes.
It is not prediction of the hazard. So
But
prediction
hazard will follow an earthquake.
Yes, but prediction of earthquakes, that high magnitude earthquake in the Himalaya, that comes in the domain of prediction, which is very, very intricate, very, very difficult. And at this stage, we can't attempt. We can only say that this area is more hazardous, or this area is hazardous to this extent. But probability doesn't predict.
Dr. Pandey close, probability doesn't predict. So it's a probable thing. So, well, suppose the 1950 Assam earthquake, it was a mega 8.7, I think, in most other than the Shillong earthquake. But the difference is that it was measured. While Shillong earthquake in 1897, it was not seismographically measured value. So in Assam becomes in that way. Otherwise, we can't predict earthquake, and forecasting is also not possible for earthquakes.
Agreed. But what about the extraordinary strain that is getting accumulated? It must give way. It must leave somewhere.
Yeah.
So what about that?
No, we have to. We just we will keep ourselves abreast to it. We keep ourselves readiness for that. For that impending event that may come tomorrow or 50 years afterwards. We don't know. There is no control. Human has nothing to do with it. So it can come, but we know the areas. We have a deal because this zone 6 and zone 5 and all this controversy that we were discussing, they are notorious for their generating big earthquakes. So it will hope we can just forecast that it will follow the same trend, same place, maybe 10 15 kilometers, because we have seen in Nepal, there are repeated, only slight change in location. But Nepal, there are repeated earthquakes in the same within the Nepal territory. So in that way, we can see that in Gujarat, in Kutch, in Gujarat also, it was not the 1819 and then this 2001. So those are
Thank
the
you.
notorious places. So it can repeat there, but we don't know when.
Thank you. And for the conclusion, I'll go with Dr. Pant, what he says. It has been a wonderful platform where we could come to some conclusion at least. So with that, thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, and it was wonderful to have you.